Before I begin, I just want to acknowledge that some of us, like myself, live in the Victoria area and conduct much of our government business and live on the traditional territories of the Lekwungen-speaking people, today known as the Songhees and Esquimalt First Nations. Others on this call may be joining from other traditional territories, and I welcome you and invite you to share where you're joining from in the chat. As you are probably aware, our team is working on digital transformation priorities within BC Parks. Currently, we're working on enabling park operators to enter attendance and revenue data into an application that subsequently makes it available to the BC Park staff. Present here today from our team are myself, as the Scrum Master, and Jessica Wade is the product owner. We have a cross-functional development team, which together is responsible for doing everything that you're going to see being demoed today, plus more. So this includes the architecture, the coding, the data modeling, the user research that goes in before you even start doing anything, the flow and the design of the user interface, the quality control, et cetera, et cetera. The list is quite long. So this incredible development team is comprised of Nicole Del Rey, Mark Lise, Daniel Trong, Cameron Pettit, Dave Kirby, Jane Mountain, Cole McLean, who we had up until March 31st, Goldie Zohar, and Meredith Olsen-Meyer. So yeah, we lost, well, we didn't lose Cole, but he left his employment at OXD, and with that, our team as well, we miss him already, but we wish him the best as he ponders what's next for him. Most of you have been to a sprint review before, maybe with our team or some other team. Just a quick recap, this meeting is an informal meeting between our team as well as you. It's held at the end of 2 weeks of work where we are doing all that planning and designing and coding and building on the next iteration of something. So today we're going to demonstrate to you what our team has been up to, hoping to get initial feedback along the way. So please put your feedback in the chat or just raise your hand or unmute yourself if you wish at any time. And then we will use that feedback to build and release on the next iteration of what we're going to be building. And then after today, or this morning, you can certainly reach out to Jessica if you have more feedback as well. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Jess to take on the demo.
Yeah, thanks, Mars. I'm going to share my screen. Okay. Welcome everybody to our Sprint 12 review. This last review we named the Lava Forks Provincial Park. I apologize for the poor quality of the photo here. This was the only photo of Lava Forks Provincial Park I could find online, so this was the only one I could get up here. I do want to acknowledge that Lava Forks Provincial Park is on the traditional territory of the Tahltan First Nation. And this last sprint, it went from March 23rd to April 6th, so over the last 2 weeks. This is our burn down chart from the last 2 weeks. So you'll notice we committed to initially around 30 story points. We've gotten maybe about half of them done. What you can't see here is actually our JIRA board. There's no tickets left to do, and everything is blocked right now by just one other ticket. So we're kind of, this looks a little deceiving because I think we're a lot farther along than we are. And I can send that link to our JIRA board too if anybody's interested in seeing that. Before we go into demos, I just wanted to do a quick update on some of the traffic that we've seen on our operational sites in the last couple of weeks. So on the Day Use Pass website, our application that actually just ended, Mount Seymour just stopped using the winter Day Use Passes on March 31st. So over this past year, there was over 32,000 passes booked at this park. And you can see the decline in the traffic since passes stopped on the 31st. Still a couple hundred people going to the site, but they wouldn't have been able to book a pass during that time. The second update I want to provide is on the beta site. So this is on the new beta bcparks.ca website. This was really interesting when I found this yesterday and I put it into the slide. So you'll notice this green line is the previous 2 weeks. So this green line shows before the reservation site went live. You'll notice, I think this is March 21st here, this green dot. So that's when the new camping reservation system went live. And then this 14th is when we started advertising the beta site on social media. Since that reservation system went live, we, over the last 2 weeks, have seen a lot less traffic on the beta site. I went to look at the actual values, and it's between about 60 to 100 page views, where before it was close to like about 1,000 a day. So I thought that was really interesting. So clearly people are going directly into the reservation site, which I think is not surprising, but interesting to see in this graph here. So yeah, the stat is about a 90% decline in traffic to the beta site since the reservation system went live. Okay, so our goals for the last sprint is we wanted to enable BC Park staff and park operators to access the attendance and revenue reporting system and to access the homepage. Which we accomplished. So we have got that set up, and Daniel is going to demo kind of what we've done over the last 2 weeks in a couple of minutes here. So first, we're going to go into demos. So Day has been continuing to work with the bcparks.ca website. So he's going to demo first some of the updates that have been made there, and then Daniel's going to go into and show the progress that we've made with the attendance and revenue system. And then Nicole's going to do a bit of a report out on the user research that she did on bcparks.ca over the last couple of weeks. So I'm going to hand it off to Day.
Thanks, Jess.
Yeah.
So I've got I have 3 things that I'm going to show that from the BC Park site. First one relates to advisories. So one thing, actually, you know what? I'm going to get to this through a different way so we can see another thing. So one thing you'll see when you're searching for parks in the Find a Park page is that the alerts on each card for each park has changed a little bit. It's now showing the number of alerts in each park. Clicking on that takes you to the advisory section of each park. If we look at the advisories alerts page itself, we did fix a bug here I want to go over really quickly. What we found was that if you search for something like lake, you'll find that it'll say that there are 86 advisories that match lake for either keywords or park names. But if you click on keywords, you see 9. If you click on park names, you see 5. So obviously something's wrong because that adds up to much less than 86. And what we found was that when you hadn't clicked either checkbox, that it was also searching parks that are inactive. And we really only want to show results for parks that are set to be active. So we have now, this is my local version, and you can see that if I search for lake, I've got different data, so I have different numbers, but I've got 108. If I look at keywords, 69, park name 75. So that is much more what we would expect. So we'll see that in test and production soon. Any questions about that before I move on to the next demo?
Just a quick note, I think somebody asked in the chat what an inactive park was. I think you meant to say an inactive advisory, right?
No, actually what we've done is that of all the parks that we are in the beta period, we're only showing, I believe 5 or 10. If we look at live here, let me get to the live. Okay, so here's beta. If we look at Find a Park, you'll see that there's only 5 parks. Under the hood, there are actually hundreds of parks. So the parks that are not shown here are the inactive parks, and we don't want to be showing the advisories from those, and that's what the error was.
I can jump in here really quickly too. The reason behind that approach is that there's 1,030 plus parks that need to be brought over, and it needs a lot of QA on all of the individual page content before we publish it, even in beta form. So we're deactivating the pages until such time that someone from the web team can go through, make sure it looks correct, it's formatted at least primarily correctly, and then it becomes active and shows on the beta site. So that's what inactive versus active means.
Thanks, Leah. Yeah, and why you see so many parks in this tab is that this is my local version, which I have just for my own testing. I have many more parks active, but that's not what the public gets to see. So part two is continuation of what we were looking at last sprint around the operation dates. If we remember, let's look at Garibaldi on production. This is what we looked at last time. So in the dates of operation section here, we had this big table, which is a little unwieldy, and I think I mentioned that we were thinking of adjusting how that worked, and we did. So in working with Jane and Harry and Sam, we now have updated that. This is still work in progress, but this is a nice move forward. If we look at dates of operation, you see now we have a bit of a different header here. It also includes the park status. And then for each what we call sub area, internally, that's not what they're really called, that there is a what we call an accordion for each one, which can be open and closed, a little easier to work with, especially since we plan on adding actually quite a lot more information to the detail for each sub area. If we search to a park that has off-season dates, we are now going to see off-season dates, which we weren't seeing before. So that is new. Another thing you'll notice that there's an icon which shows the type of sub-area it is, or what we would call the facility type. And in that case, when we have a facility type, we can actually link to the part of the page lower down, which actually describes that facility type. So if I click on this, it happens really quickly, but you'll see that I've now scrolled down the page, and now we're looking at the details of group camping for that facility. So we'll be working with Jane and Rob and others over the next couple of weeks to even further add features to this area, but it is coming along. Any questions about that before I move on to my last piece? Okay. The last item here is just a little eye candy for y'all. You'll remember a couple sprints ago, we did an update to the mega menu, which is this menu up here at the top. Harry's design included a nice little image that goes with each section. So now you can see that. There's an image with each section. Actually looks even better when the second menu level is open. So there's now a different image for each section. This is only for desktop because there isn't room for this in mobile. This is also configurable by the web team. There's now an area, a field here for image URL, so that this can be administered by the web team. So that's the end of my demo. Just wanted to mention for those who might not know that this will be my last review demo with you all. It's been a real pleasure and privilege to be working on the team, and I'll definitely miss working with you all, and I wish you all the best.
Same to you, Dave. We will miss you very much. Your contribution to the team overall and your leadership as well has been it's been really great. There is a question in the chat. want to know how are low, medium, or high advisories defined.
That might so that's set in the content management system by the web team. This might be a good question for Rob if he's on the call.
I don't know if he is. Oh, there he is. Good.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, either by the web team or eventually regional staff when we when the staff portal is ready for use. And in addition to the levels of urgency, which are low, moderate, and high, we have public safety flag.
So I can maybe add just a little bit of clarity to that as well. We worked with Emergency Management BC to make sure that the terminology we use isn't indicative of, I guess, emergency procedures or definitions around what is a high versus moderate versus low emergency. This is our terminology for what is safety related or significant in terms of scope. So the BC Parks' definitions, not indicative of the level of emergency, if you will.
I just wanted to point out real quick that thanks to the user research we've been doing and some of the great design work that that's been ongoing, we do have some updates to the advisories look and feel coming, which hopefully we'll see in the next sprint or two.
All right, we will jump into the progress we've made on attendance and revenue. Daniel, I'll pass it off to you.
All right. There. Can you guys see that?
Yes.
All right. So I'm going to start from a fresh login. So at the moment, we have our Keycloak module pulled in from DUP Pass, and we've shoved it into here. This is the same method of logging in as NRPTI, Eagle, DUP, BCPRS. Right now, it uses our IDERs to log in. We are currently looking into getting BCID working and possibly other methods. But for now, just for testing purposes, it uses IDER. So here's our quick.
Daniel, I'm wondering if I can just get you to zoom in perhaps a little bit for us with small screens. It's a little hard to read that. Thank you.
If I shrink the screen, does that help, or does it still
It does help a little, but it doesn't help with the font size. It just helps the screen look more like what I would expect on my own browser.
Maybe I can.
But when you zoomed in earlier, I think it worked better.
Okay.
There you go. Thank you.
But it messes up the spacing. All right, this is the home page here. At the moment, the whole application is mobile friendly, and I get that some of the operators might not be on their phones, but they might have lower resolution screens, which might cause the screen to go like this. But either way, we've accounted for it. Yeah. So at the moment, we have a stubbed out area for our export reports. We haven't built that yet. And we have our enter data, which is just a quick test of our API. Right now, we just have a date picker, which allows us to pick a certain date that we want to work on specific to reports. And we have our park list that is currently populated from our API, which is hosted in AWS. So this is all live data. The data itself isn't useful, really. It was just a quick bit of test data, just to prove that things are, in fact, getting pulled from the API. This field here is a type ahead as well. So when we have hundreds of parks in there, it'll be a little bit easier to pick out the park that you want. It's not very helpful with just 2 parks, of course, but at the moment, that is working. Once we get a bigger list, it'll be a nicer demo to look at. And right now, this is currently incorrect, but it is data getting pulled in associated with the park. This is wrong though, of course. It's test data. For the UI, that's mostly all we've got. There was a lot of work done on the pipeline side. So this is our GitHub repo. Again, it's probably going to be a little too small for you guys there. And at the moment, we have our deployments, our PR, linting, and testing will run. So basically, when you request to drop code into the code base, it'll automatically lint and test your code and run our code, our test suite. Right now, oh, I guess we lose the logs after a certain amount of time. We have deployments to dev, test, and prod. This basically sends everything over to AWS and allows everything to be live. So it's complicated, but it does work now. And there's a little bit more work to be done on the actual AWS side to just iron out some configuration problems. But once that's done, dev and test should be available to poke around in. For now, right now, we just have it in my local. But we do have our code in AWS, and it's just a few things we need to fix before that's before we can distribute the link. Yeah, that's it for the A&R progress. Any questions?
I just
Roman?
answered two in the chat here, but Ruben, any questions?
Well, thanks for answering the one in the chat. I'm interested, not that everything's about, velocity and being competitive, but any reflections on your ability to deploy this new service compared to other of Osprey's experiences and commentary in respect to why faster, same, slower?
Yeah, so this time around is significantly faster than when we tried to deploy DUP Pass. That's mostly because we've figured out the little intricacies and the things we need to request from the AWS team, the permissions and stuff like that, and also our restrictions. Since we already know all of that, deployment was dead easy. It is actually the same pipeline that we used in DUP Pass. So a lot of it was just pull it over from Deus, shove it into A&R, tweak a few things, change a few variables, and we're good to go. It just a lot of our waiting time would be basically requesting the workspace for AWS because it requires its own little license plate thing. But in terms of getting that code out there, it's all stuff we've done previously, and there really isn't, in terms of our deployment, there isn't really anything that's super snowflakey with this project. So it just allowed us to pull everything over, copy, paste, and off to the races, right? So this time around, lightning quick.
Cool. Dan, Jess, could you just, and this doesn't need to be onerous, but just a high level capture of what what that difference is, and then even quantify it by dollars as well would be useful for some of our reporting. And then additionally, I'm hearing yesterday that our friend Justin Hewitt, poor guy, is now also responsible for the Cloud Pathfinder, and so your landing zone. So let's keep him generously informed of what we're learning, and by extension continue to seek the quid pro quo of getting early access to things that they're rolling out. And of course, we have a few of those things on our wish list already.
For sure. One comment I have on that actually is like the fact that today, after 2 weeks, there was some UI and API hookups, and Daniel was able to demo that piece. Shows how much faster it was than DUP Pass, or even what our proof of concept with Checkfront on reservation services. Like that was 2 weeks of getting all that infrastructure set up. This time we've done all that, plus had that UI to show with the API and the drop-down menus. So I think just the fact that we could demo that proves that it was faster than those previous times. So each time it's getting faster and faster. But I can put together that report out, Ruben.
Yeah, I think it'd be great. Just, you know all of my motivations with that, and I could, I can see it after one sprint. So big shouts to the team for doing that, and for context for those that haven't been around this kind of work for as long. I don't know, Jess, 2 years ago, this would have taken how long? 6 months ago, it was 6 weeks. Now you're down to 2.
Yeah.
So it's hella impressive.
Yeah, and Ruben, if I can just jump in here, we did have an informal conversation amongst our own team, and we were working on this. And when we recognized we're going to be reusing so much of the code from previous iterations of other products, the sort of idea at the time was that we were saving months of work here with reusing code and with the knowledge that the team comes with, plus a lot of the research that was done ahead of time by Jane on what the requirements are and what that user flow should be. That really fed into speeding things up as well.
Yeah. Also, the other thing we should give some credit to is the Cloud Pathfinder team. Every single time I've reached out to them, it's like within a couple days turnaround, they'll give us an environment in AWS. So that, and usually that can be a bit of a roadblock waiting on those things, and it's been so fast and smooth every single time. So that's been great.
Okay. Anticipate some shout-outs heading your way and their way.
All right. Thanks, Daniel. Now we will pivot to some research findings from Nicole.
Hey, everybody. I'm Nicole. I'm a user researcher on the team, and just going to share my screen here and going to give you a bit of a download of some of the findings that came out of the last research session. So in March, we ran about 7 usability testing sessions. These were with public users of the systems. And the focus for these sessions were on bcparks.ca, and in particular, the active alerts page, and also got into some discussions about how users are searching for parks. So we asked participants how they find information about active alerts. So things like park closures or wildfires or flooding. And we heard various sources are being utilized to find that kind of information, from the bcparks.ca website to social media sites, wildfire service. So they're looking in various places to find out. And we understood that users are really taking a proactive approach and seeking out information prior to their trips. And so Dave mentioned in the piece he worked on that there were some updates coming to the page he was on, and this is some of the designs. So we went through these updated designs with participants to ensure it sort of met their needs and they were logical and made sense. And so what we really heard was the use of color and icons to identify the severity of an issue or an alert was really well received. The definitions of high and low to describe the severity of an issue was easily understood. The one thing that was we got a little bit hung up on was the medium health and safety related. It caused a little bit of confusion, and it seemed to be with the word health being a bit of a trigger. People really understood safety issues, but they really had that pause of, oh, a health issue, what is that? So some thought, we've had some ideas on how to modify that a little bit just to make it flow a little bit easier for the users. The participants really liked the way the information was presented, which within each alert or advisory. They really liked the way the cards display, but felt maybe with a couple more items, it would further improve their experience. They really want to know about updates to an existing alert. Is it still active? Has it been resolved? They want to see this within the card, so it'll make it really easy to determine at a glance what's happening with that alert. They also really want to know what the last time this alert was updated, see a timestamp, and also clearly identify on the card if a park is open, closed, or partially closed. So it'll be really easy for them to find out information about the pieces they're looking at. We also talked a little bit about trust in alerts. We asked them if they landed on this page, would they trust that this was the latest information and up to date on bcparks.ca? And, through the way it's designed and there is details on when these alerts are updated and added, they really understood that these are done during business hours and commented they will check here, but after hours, they will do some other searches through whether it be websites or social media to understand if that is the latest update. They did also mention, though, that without an obvious update to each of these cards on the alerts or having that timestamp on them, they're unsure if an issue has been resolved or if it is ongoing. And then during the session, we also talked a lot about how people are searching for parks when planning a trip. So when we asked, what are you looking for when you begin that search? When you sit down at your computer and you start looking, some commonalities that really emerged were location, available dates, and specific needs. So things like the campsite needs to be dog friendly or have beach access. Those were always on the top of the list for all the users. And all participants stated that unless they want to find a specific park by name, their search starts on a map. And there was two common paths that kind of came out of the sessions. The first one is people want to search on a map by a region, and then they want to go a little smaller and find a location within that region. Then they want to find the parks that meet their specific needs, dog friendly, beach access, what have you. Then they want to look at a campground map, and then they want to find the campsites. And the second kind of path is maybe people don't have a lot of time. They don't want to go too far from home on their camping trips. So they want to start at their home address, and then they want to go so many kilometers out and then break back down into that specific needs campground map, view campsite. Currently, participants stated they're typically utilizing Google Maps to do these location searches. Once they kind of find the campgrounds that they want to look into, they're going into the reservation site to look at the park details a bit closer and view those campground maps, and will sort of bounce back and forth in between maps and reservation site to research and plan their trips. Currently on bcparks.ca, the only map is on a parks page, and it is this big green one here. Participants liked having a map. However, they all felt the zoom level was not quite right to make it valuable. And they all suggested it should be more at a level that shows the roads so they can kind of get a better sense of where the park is and what is around it. And so, simply by just changing that zoom level, we can really improve the experience for users on this page. And so kind of talking about the user's mental model, how they see BC Parks and finding information is what kept coming up over and over again in these sessions is there was a bit of confusion or maybe an assumption with participants as to where they were. Were they on bcparks.ca or were they on camping reservations? To them, it was the same thing, and they referenced them interchangeably. Some comments that kept coming up from participants were things like, the last iteration had a map I used to search with, or I used to be able to view campsites on the map. Are you going to bring back the map? I used to be able to search by map. And these, of course, are all referencing camping reservations, not bcparks.ca, and that is the piece we were testing. So it really kind of highlights that users are seeing this as one site, not two separate sites, to do their planning. And the census, they weren't utilizing the existing bcparks.ca website when researching. They were actually going into the reservation site to do those searches. participants did say they may go to the bcparks.ca website to find policy information prior to the camping season, kind of refresh their memory. But in general, they expect to find all those policy related pieces during that booking process. Overall, there was a lot of positivity around the experience using the new bcparks.ca, and participants really liked the new site. They liked the way the information was presented. They loved all the new photos that were added there. But what's really missing is searching by map. This is really important to them. It's you know, how their search begins. So I really think for future iterations of bcparks.ca, it'll be really important to provide that seamless experience between bcparks.ca and camping reservations, as they see this as just one site. You know, if they go into bcparks.ca and they do their search and they click on their map, it's driving them into the booking process. That's their expectation. And these sessions were really great. I'd say the best we've had so far. The participants were super engaged. They were so interested in our process, really appreciative of being included in these processes. And we actually had a couple emails sent from participants after the sessions. One saying, I really enjoyed helping out and was pleased to see the launch of the new camping reservation site, which included some of the features I had felt were important. And the second one said, the new site looks amazing and I'm glad I could help. Thank you for including me. So I think we're really honestly heading in the right direction with users, and they're really engaged, and you know, it's a lot of fun. So.
Awesome. Thanks, Nicole. There's a couple questions coming up in the chat, a little bit about regions, if people knew specifically like what region they should be looking in. But I don't know if you got any feedback on that.
We didn't have any feedback on that exactly, because we honestly, we didn't have the map to search by region, but it did come up. Like almost every participant was like, oh, I want to sort by region first, and then I want to go a little bit smaller. So we do have sessions running next week for reservations. Excuse me, is the focus of it. So hopefully we can get in some conversations on the map from camping reservations that does have the region, and see if that is makes sense to users, if those are the regions they're thinking of. I know there's a few different breakdowns of regions, so hopefully we've got the right one.
Yeah, Dre, I'd be super interested, you know, in terms of how you craft your questions, whether folks are actually searching by like a named region, you know, and if a named region, like what names, like what do they recognize to be a region, or if region in that observation, you know, simply from a user experience means like I'm going to zoom into an area on the map, you know, or region as in like proximity to my home. You know, what do folks think of when they think of region? It'd be interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So I did just want to run through quickly. I know we've kind of already talked about this, but I got a little bit of the other work that we completed this last sprint. Most of it was focused on the attendance and revenue system. We've got the data model initially created, and that's continuing to be worked on. We've got all of our environments set up. There is some work left on that just in regards to like configurations, but we do have dev, test, and prod for attendance and revenue available. The pipeline's being set up like Daniel showed, and also setting up the ability to build in automated testing for the system as well. So what's next for our team? So for our team Osprey, we are going to be working again on attendance and revenue. We want to enable users to actually be able to enter some data into the system. So that is front country camping, cabins, group sites, day use information. I think there's 7 different categories. So we're going to work on getting some of that functionality available for users. We're also going to do some continued investigation into the roles and permission options for attendance and revenue, as that will also overlap with day use pass. So seeing if BCID is a good solution, if there's another solution we can use, and kind of just figuring out what what is the ideal situation for park operators to be able to log into the system. And finally, we are going to make, there's one small task of just updating the text on the Day Use Pass website to reflect the end of the winter passes and the potential for upcoming summer passes in June. So updating that website, just the UI of it, just to make sure that it's not really specific to Mount Seymour anymore and communicates a little bit more clearly to the public that there are no Day Use Passes needed right now. Finally, just a quick update on our roadmap. You'll notice we're here at the end of Sprint 12, focusing on attendance and revenue. And then near the end of April and May, we're going to kind of do a bit of overlap between attendance and revenue and the Day Use Pass system and getting that prepared for the summer and prepared for a June launch with that. And yeah, ongoing user research and design. And like Nicole said, the next user research interview sessions are going to be focused on the new reservation system. So I think seeing how that relates to the user research you just reported, Nicole, is going to be super interesting. Yeah, and that is it. Any questions from anybody?
I just wanted to quickly mention that if anybody on the call is interested in sitting in on user research sessions, they are welcome to come and observe. You can contact either Nicole or me, and we'll get you set up with a time and a date.
Jane, Dre, I can't remember if I mentioned this in the live stream yesterday, but I've been humble bragging about that practice of yours to anybody who'll listen. So thank you for continuing to do it. The feedback I've heard is that it's incredibly, illuminating and meaningful, and just a great practice. So big respect and gratitude.
I'm just going to drop the link to where the sign up piece lives. So if anybody wants to jump in, please do. Love to have you.
Dre, Jane, have you connected with like any CrossGov user experience research, community of practice or otherwise? Forgive my black box on whether that's a thing, coordinated at the lab or otherwise.
Yeah, I'm, IIT has their UX team that I'm part of, and there are a bunch of sessions. We collaborate with the GDX service designers and have meetings with them as well. And so Jane, probably not so much. She's not a govie. But yeah, I'm definitely in the group with all the Gov UX designers and researchers.
All right, let's get Jane that secret handshake at some point.
Yeah, for sure.
Hey, while I'm holding the conch, can I also just say a big thank you to Day. It's been such a privilege, a boon, an accelerator, a deepener of our acumen to have, all of the OXD team bringing their excellence. Shine was extended on the live stream yesterday, and Day, you just showed up with obviously the wealth of your decades of experience, but also, your generally humble, capable, collaboration-oriented disposition. So thank you. Personally and on behalf of the team, we're going to miss the heck out of you. We're grateful to you, and we're proud of you for making a call to make a move that supports you and your family. So yeah, big love and gratitude. Here's to your future. Don't be a stranger. Pull requests are open.
Yeah. All right, thanks everybody. I'll post the presentation into the Sprint Review files in Teams and share that if anybody's interested. So,
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.